Evangelism can go wrong, really go wrong.
At the All Nations Full Gospel Churches, we are taught how to evangelize in the right way. This year, observing our Missions Week, our senior pastor, Professor Samuel Donko, gave us wonderful lessons on how to preach the gospel. And at the ANU Main Campus Church, it was made more practical. Different situations, different circumstances, different approaches, many mistakes, many lessons, the emotions, the fun, the aggression. Indeed, evangelism can go wrong. Enjoy the drama.
The way he spoke to me, it made me feel like God was still interested in me.
I am Manasseh, and I was given 5 minutes to evangelize to a backslider and talk him back to Christ. Backsliders are usually people who have lost touch with the love of God.
I had gone really deep into the world.
In order to come through for such people, you need to use the evangelism love languages, showing sincere care about their well-being, asking about the well-being of their families, their jobs, and their academics. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
And to me, that did it for me. Most people who spoke to me were just pointing out my sins to me. You have done this, why have you done that? And they were just reminding me of all that I've done, but I knew those things already.
One of the powerful assets I used was my quoting of scriptures.
I am Samuel Akono. I was acting a backslider, deeply drawn into the world.
Matilda, and I acted as the bad girl on the street.
I'm Jahel, and I was sent on an evangelism trip to an unwelcoming environment. I think the first mistake I made was going alone. It was an unwelcoming, a harsh, and an unfriendly environment. Therefore, I was supposed to go with someone else to an unfamiliar place, like a ghetto, like the place I went to, or even a new place. You should go in twos or in groups, because anything can happen.
All the previous evangelists that came here, they came to condemn us, telling us that we'll go to hell and the rest. But for this one, she is different. For the first time, someone came to me wanting to know what I'm worth, my values, and what I can actually do.
Pastor taught us one very important thing on how to approach people in evangelism. He used Proverbs 1 verse 17, which says, if a bird sees a trap being set, it knows to stay away.
When she came and she said she was here to evangelize, I was like, oh, these people again? I felt disappointed and I nearly walked away.
So, you shouldn't start with an obvious comment like, I was sent to, or I came to evangelize to you, but rather start with something other than that, like a compliment. You can start the conversation with something else, because there are people who resent the message of Christ. It puts them off on the spot.
She was willing to sit with me, know my background, about my parents, and what really happened to me. At first, I felt emotional, but I felt loved and accepted because no one has ever shown that love to me. After the conversation, I felt valuable in the eyes of God, a family's love and the love of God. I was wondering, what at all was I doing on the street?
I'm Lorena. I was acting a scientist, a fictionist, and yes, an atheist. As a scientist, I've read many books and theories like the Big Bang Theory, the theory of evolution, and there's nothing showing that God exists.
My name is Godfred, and I was given 5 minutes to convert a scientist, an atheist, and a fictionist to Christ. Do your best to avoid arguments, because you are sent to evangelize and not to argue. One of the mistakes I made was trying to argue out her scientific theories. You can appreciate a person's knowledge, how much they've learned, how much research they've done. Don't undermine their knowledge, otherwise they might get offended. But know when to divert the conversation.
For the first time, he was asking me about things that I didn't want to talk about, like my heart and how I really felt in life. I've been searching. There's this void in my heart, and I feel like something is missing. But every time, I bring forth my theories to defend them. He did so well when he pointed out to me that there was something missing in my heart. And when he began talking about Jesus, forgiveness of sins, and reconciliation with the Father, I knew that was it.
One thing about evangelism is that you do not promise people a supernatural encounter for them to believe. Because as soon as you do that, they will not believe at your words, but they'll be waiting for that supernatural encounter, such as telling a person that God will come to your room and reveal himself to you, or send an angel to your room. So we're taught that God primarily preaches to men, through men, not angels. Indeed, people have had various supernatural encounters, but don't keep the soul waiting, expecting these supernatural encounters before they can be saved.
My name is Peniel. I was depressed, frustrated, heartbroken. Nothing was working in my life, and then I was even too hopeless to go to church.
My name is Amos, and my duty was to restore a sister who was frustrated and depressed back to Christ.
I had no one to talk to. I needed someone to express my feelings to, someone who would understand me.
One of the ways to show you are truly interested in someone is to give them listening ears.
I had a lot of people come talk to me, but none of them was willing to listen to my long story. All they wanted to do was to preach to me, talk to me about what they had to say. He was the first person who came around and was willing to listen to my long story. He sympathized with me. He patiently listened to my story, and then he advised me. And just by his patience, I felt loved and accepted.
At the end, I did a good job.
I was mourning at heart. I didn't want to hear anything about God, not even about church.
When I met her, she wasn't willing to hear anything about God or church.
I don't believe you. You know me. Oh, you know me as a youth. You know I'm a youth leader of church.
Hi, I'm Mabel. I was asking the lady who was offended with God.
My name is Richard. My job was to restore a church member who suddenly stopped coming to church. The mistake I made was despising the death of her mother by saying that just because your mother died.
Hearing my church leader say that just because I lost my mom, I'm not coming to church, that puts me off. Calling the death of my mother just, I was not interested in listening to anything he has to tell me because I felt like he didn't understand my situation.
But I persisted. One of the key things about evangelism is that you need to be persistent. Because you are persistent, it tells the person that what you want to say is important.
By the end of our conversation, I was comforted.
Yes, this is where we raise leaders for the body of Christ.